BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
The era of unimpeded free trade and investment, once the bedrock of the global post-war economic order, has drawn to a close. This stark pronouncement came from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the Apec summit in South Korea, where he delivered a sobering message to Asia-Pacific leaders. Carney asserted that in a global economy grappling with unprecedented transformation, a period arguably more profound than the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the established framework of rules-based open trade no longer serves its purpose. He articulated this sentiment during a business event on the summit's opening day in the historic city of Gwangju, stating, "The old world of steady expansion of rules-based liberalized trade and investment, a world on which so much of our nation's prosperity, very much Canada's included, is based. That world is gone." In a significant shift in foreign policy, Carney signaled Canada's intent to gradually reduce its traditional reliance on trade with the United States, outlining an ambitious goal to double non-US exports over the next decade. This declaration precedes a pivotal moment, the first formal meeting between Canadian and Chinese leaders since 2017. During this encounter, Carney expressed his eagerness to deepen collaboration with Chinese President Xi Jinping, aiming to collectively foster a more sustainable and inclusive international system. President Xi, in turn, extended an invitation for Carney to visit China, noting that bilateral relations between the two nations appear to be on a path to recovery. Following a period of strained ties under Carney's predecessor, Justin Trudeau, Xi remarked, "Recently, with the joint efforts of both sides, China-Canada relations have shown a recovery toward a trend of positive development," adding, "China is willing to work with Canada to bring China-Canada relations back to the right track." Carney reciprocated, stating, "I also welcome the invitation to come to China to further the dialogue, and I very much look forward to doing so," emphasizing his anticipation for constructive and pragmatic dialogue. This assertion by Carney regarding the decline of rules-based free trade comes just days after a critical truce between Chinese President Xi Jinping and United States President Donald Trump, who stepped back from escalating a full-blown trade war. While this de-escalation brought relief to global leaders, it also served as a potent reminder of the deep-seated divergences between the leaders of the world's two largest economies. Earlier this month, Carney had indicated that Canada would only resume trade negotiations with the US when the Americans are ready, a veiled reference to Trump's abrupt termination of all trade discussions in response to a television advertisement that quoted former US President Ronald Reagan and opposed US tariffs. The advertisement, funded by the government of the Canadian province of Ontario, featured excerpts from a 1987 speech where Reagan argued that trade barriers hurt every American worker. On Friday, President Xi Jinping mounted a vigorous defense of free trade, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, which appeared to be a direct critique of Trump's America First protectionist agenda. During a closed-door session, Xi emphasized, "The more turbulent the times, the more we must work together," observing, "The world is undergoing a period of rapid change, with the international situation becoming increasingly complex and volatile." The two-day summit has been overshadowed by the significant talks between President Trump and President Xi on Thursday, which concluded with an agreement to retract their most severe tariff and export control threats. Discussions among APEC's 21 member economies continued to revolve around supply chains and free trade, with the United States represented by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, despite reaching a deal on critical resources like rare earth minerals and soybeans. And on tariffs with Xi, President Trump opted to depart from the summit, a move that has drawn criticism for its perceived lack of engagement with APEC nations, which collectively represent a substantial portion of the global population and trade. When questioned about Trump's early departure on the eve of the Leaders Summit, a senior administration official, Casey Mace, stated that the U.S.'s contribution in Gwangju had been very strong and robust. Washington's engagement in the region was further evidenced in Malaysia, where U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth met with his counterparts from China and India at the commencement of an ASEAN Defense Summit. In a post on X, Hegseth conveyed that he had informed his Chinese counterpart, Dong Jun, that the United States would stoutly defend its interests and maintain the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. He also voiced concerns regarding Chinese military activities in disputed areas of the South China Sea and in the vicinity of Taiwan. The United States and India solidified their alliance by signing a 10-year defense cooperation framework, which Hegseth hailed as a cornerstone for regional stability and deterrence. President Xi Jinping's initial meeting with Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi was potentially one of the more delicate encounters of his bilateral engagements. Prime Minister Takaichi, Japan's first female leader, holds a hawkish stance on China's military expansion in the region and has previously advocated for stricter measures against wealthy Chinese individuals acquiring property and other assets in Japan. Despite long-standing differences over historical narratives and territorial disputes, both Prime Minister Takaichi and President Xi expressed a desire to cultivate a strategic and mutually beneficial relationship. Takaichi stated, "Japan and China share responsibilities for the peace and prosperity of the region," adding, "While there are various pending issues and challenges between our countries, I hope we can reduce those and increase dialogue and cooperation." President Xi reportedly indicated his intention to maintain communication with Prime Minister Takaichi to ensure bilateral ties remain on the right track. Prime Minister Takaichi's political profile includes a tendency towards historical revisionism, having sought to downplay Japanese atrocities committed in occupied China and other parts of Asia. During and prior to World War II, she has also undertaken pilgrimages to Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo, a memorial that honors Japan's war dead, including individuals classified as class A war criminals. Although Takaichi omitted a visit to Yasukuni shortly before assuming her prime ministerial role, she recently informed Parliament that Japan intends to expedite its increase in defense spending, aiming to reach 2% of GDP by the end of March. 2 years ahead of the original schedule, Tokyo and Beijing have yet to resolve several persistent points of friction, including Chinese import restrictions on Japanese seafood and agricultural products, implemented following Japan's commencement of releasing treated wastewater from the damaged Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in August 2023 and an ongoing territorial dispute over the Senkaku Diaoyu Islands in the East China Sea.